What time is it? It's nation time.
Greetings and welcome to the AfterWords program. My name is Bible Confense Chike, your host. I'm joined today by Reverend Erica Naretti Bryant, this week's preacher of our sermon, The Importance of Grit, Giving Revolutionary Inspiration Today. Welcome to the program today, Reverend Naretti. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for a very powerful sermon. The scripture for today's sermon comes from the book of Judges, book 4, verses 4 through 9 and 18 through 21. In the scripture, we see two examples of women that demonstrated grit to make life better for their people. Your message today also emphasizes the importance of grit and the importance of giving revolutionary inspiration today. Please tell me, why grit?
Well, as I stated in my message, grit is that quality of never say die. It's a never give up. It's an attitude that says, I will do whatever it takes. So in looking at Judge Deborah, for example, she was designated as one of the judges over Israel, and her role was to adjudicate disputes between and among the people. But when God gave her a word to give to Barak, she obeyed and she gave that word in her capacity as a judge. But Barak asked her to step outside of her comfort zone and to go with him. Now she had the word. She stood on what God said, which is that Barak would prevail over Sisera and his army. But Barak didn't believe. And so, in order to get Israel to where it needed to be, Deborah agreed to go with him. But she also told him that because he wouldn't go, because he didn't have the necessary grit, that there would be a woman, who would step up to the plate and have the grit to do what needed to be done. And that's no different than the times that we're living in now. At the time that of our recording these afterwards, we're heading into the second month of 2025. We're on the other side of a contentious political presidential election. There's a new administration. There's a lot of uncertainty. People are concerned about rising costs for things like eggs. And people don't know what's coming next, or they're worried about whatever comes next will be detrimental. And so what this message was intended to do was to encourage people to hold on, hang on. We've, as a people, we have been in difficult situations before. We have faced challenges before, and we have overcome them. And one of the key tools to overcoming challenges is to have that grit. And as a part of our best self movement, I see grit as giving revolutionary inspiration today. It means showing up for each other today. It means honoring our commitments to build together today.
Okay, considering all that you've said about grit and the circumstance we find ourselves in, uh, say more about how God's people can be the light at the end of the tunnel, or give us examples of giving revolutionary inspiration today. Provide some examples, please.
Okay. Well, for me, one of the biggest ways we can exemplify what it means to have grit as the people of God is in how we treat one another. It means not giving up on people, not writing people off, not deciding that someone is unworthy because they happen to be less than what we believe perfection looks like or what good enough looks like. It's also about setting an example of service to one another. It's about being our brothers and our sisters' keeper. It's about seeing needs and responding to those needs with a heart of compassion and a commitment to serve.
Thank you for that. And I want to ask you to just more specifically maybe tell us how the programs of the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church can help us to be the best version of ourselves so that we can use grit. What are the different programs that help move us towards our best selves, enabling us to more effectively give revolutionary inspiration today?
I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you asked that question because we have programs, for example, like our food pantry, where we commit to feeding people who experience food insecurity. We also open up our physical church facilities for businesses to come in, as such as through the Buy Black Marketplace in Houston, our cultural centers, which also serve as a haven and a gathering place for community, and for groups to come together and meet and strategize on ways of moving our community and moving our race forward. We have our prison ministry. We have programming for our youth, because it's important to develop the next generation. And we also have various best self practices within our church. There are those who engage in daily devotional and prayer. And there are various ministries. We have a ministry centered around the men in our church, and the things that they can come together and do for our church and our community. We have a women's ministry that does the same thing with a focus on women and girls both within and outside of our church. We give scholarships to promising young people as they pursue their educational goals. But everything we do as a church, every single one of our programs and activities is geared towards helping our people to be better. And then when we help our people to be better, then we become better.
Thank you very much for that. So as we come to the close of today's conversation, are there some inspiring words that you may like to leave us with pertaining to giving grit?
Well, I talked a little bit in the sermon about the Detroit Lions and how I became, by default, a fan of football, and my chosen team is the Lions. And so I would say, don't don't let the naysayers keep you back. Keep your head up and keep moving forward.
Yes, and our work is cut out for us, but as we've done time and time again, our people will rise to the challenge. Thank you very much for this week's powerful sermon and a very insightful conversation today, Reverend Reddy. Thank you again, and I'd like to, of course, invite our friends and followers that view us to continue to view us and tune in for our sermons every week. And of course, the engaging conversation that follows in the AfterWords program. And I like to close with the words of our patron saint, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey: "Up, you mighty race, and accomplish what you will."
Ashe, thank you.
What? time is it? It's nation time.